to the afternoon session of Day 4, Faculty Training for Wired Flexible Learning. This is a project of the Far Eastern University and the HIEd Bayanihan project. Now, how are you? Have you had your lunch? Well, I would like to apologize for some problems earlier with regards to the link to your attendance. Many of us were called to a meeting. Several of us had to leave the room earlier, and there was a mix-up on the file. So I hope at this point in time, all of you have already signed in. And if there are any other concerns, maybe you just type it in the live Q&A, and hopefully our moderator, Ms. Chini Aparicio, can attend to that. But meanwhile, I hope you're all ready this afternoon and had some time to practice on your Moodle, right? For the activities and assignments. And I believe several of you even were able to accomplish the activity given out by Sir Richmond. All right, and I was also looking through the comments earlier, and I guess, Sir Rich, you have more followers and subscribers now on Teacher Rich. Yeah, it's really, his tips are easy to follow, and it will give you more space for your data, and lesser bandwidth rather will be eaten up if you follow his instructions. Okay, there you go. So this afternoon we will be continuing the discussion pertaining now to online presentation and performance-based assessments. Also in this activity we shall have exercises. Okay, so be ready and make sure you're very attentive. Again, if you miss out because of poor internet connection, don't worry. The link that you use to sign in this morning will be the very same link you can click later tonight, so you can have a copy of the recording of the whole sessions, and then you can follow through again the different step-by-step instruction given by Teacher Rich earlier this morning, and then later on our speaker for this afternoon. Our presenter is a research fellow of the Far Eastern University, and she's the founding editor-in-chief of Asian Journal on Perspectives in Education. She earned her Doctor of Philosophy in Applied Linguistics at BLSU, Taft, Maine, Manila. Okay, she also has published numerous works on languages, linguistics, education, and literacy, both in local and international journals. She has also co-authored and rather written a chapter in the book Learning Management, Directions, oh no, I'm sorry, this is the title. The title of the chapter, I'm sorry, Learning Anchors, Learning Spaces, and Learning Management, Directions and Perspectives of the 21st Century Language Education in the Philippines for Routledge publication. Okay, so this afternoon you will be highly engaged once again, so I hope you're all ready, because we will now have Dr. Rosarito Sotenko, or we call her Dr. Rose. Okay, you may now take the virtual space, Dr. Rose.
Good afternoon, Ma'am Liz. Thank you for having me. I'm so honored, and it's a great privilege to be with you this afternoon and to share with you the little things I know about online presentation and problem-based assessment. And we are given instruction that this will be interactive, so I apologize if I made some prompts which some of you hopefully would want to work on. So as promised, we will make this presentation as lively and as interactive as possible, not to mention very fruitful and very much loaded with pedagogical, technological, and andragogical content knowledge. So module is module 6, which is on online presentation and performance-based assessment. So this is the overview of the presentation. Okay, first, I will situate module 6, which means I will talk about where I'm coming from as an academic service provider and where I'll be leading you in the presentation. Next, I will talk about the structure of the presentation, the learning outcomes, the content knowledge, both pedagogical, andragogical, and technological content knowledge. Next, I will talk about online presentation, performance-based assessment, and all the important concepts under both. Next, I will show some samples of online presentation and performance-based assessment. And next, we will present some learning resources. This is going to be the interactive part, the learning resources development and presentation. So I will ask some of you to work on your existing PowerPoint presentations and convert them into another form, or different forms of online presentation. And last is the takeaway. So what you will get from all these presentation, and what you will bring with you after this presentation. Okay, so basically, Module 6 is about the reimagination of the traditional classroom. So this is a module which we want to talk about how to actualize effective and efficient teaching and learning in a remote environment through online presentations and performance-based assessment. So as an academic service provider, my role is to present the technological, pedagogical, and andragogical content knowledge for remote learning environment. A remote learning environment, it refers to the recreation of the traditional learning environment through technology. So this means the features of the traditional classroom are transplanted in a technologically enabled environment. It is by default propelled by the utilization of Internet technology. Thus, teaching and learning are delivered through various Internet-enabled gadgets like smartphones, computers, tablets, and other web-based programs like wikis, web-based tools, and programs for learning. So it's important that we situate this modules because we want to imagine now how remote learning will be given the digital space or environment that we will use for teaching and learning. So we have here Mentimeter. So a small, a very simple quiz for everyone, or not a quiz, just a survey. It's a survey basically. So what is the most common mode of learning delivery in your class? So please go to www.menti.com and use the code 6768268 and please answer the question. So we're still waiting for the responses. May one pala. Okay, ito. So open class discussion, lectures are 75%, open class discussion, lecture. So basically, we have 4 options here, 4 options, but we're seeing it's like, yan. We have 11% now of student-led activities, workshop laboratories. So this is interesting. Okay. So we see the number for the other modes of learning, or the number is increasing. And as the other modes of learning are increasing, we can see the percentage of lecture is decreasing. Okay, I think meron pa bang hahabol? Merong hahabol? Okay. So we have 24 who responded, 25. Okay, we have 25. So So nadadagdagan pa. Siguro mga last 30 seconds.
1 minute?
And then we will
30 seconds. Okay.
Pwede.
We have about
others
100 or we have more than 100 participants. So far, if the 23, I guess there are a lot more we are waiting for. All right, okay.
So 13 na. Siguro some are having difficulty connecting to
Yes.
the internet.
Sige po.
Yeah.
You may proceed, Dr. Rose.
Okay. Okay. So siguro we'll stop na the Mentimeter. So we have 36 respondents. Okay, so that's a good number. It's still increasing. We're reaching 37. Okay, anyway. So this is an interesting result because we can see now that although lecture is still the most dominant mode or preferred mode of learning, it's less than 50% now, according to our 39, close to 40 respondents. And as the number increases, bumababa, so now it's only 40%, and we can see student-led activities are increasing, you know. It's now 21, and open class discussion 30. And I guess you have a combination in your respective classrooms na 40, 30, 20, and then you have the laboratory workshop type, which is 7%. Okay, so this is very interesting because we are realizing that it's indeed 21st century in the Philippines, and it's no longer a lecture teacher-fronted dominated kind of a classroom experience for the students. We can see that a lot of faculty, more and more faculty, are getting into the 21st century and 4.0 field of using lecture on important areas of learning, let's say, concept knowledge. And we can see the continued preference for making students really owners of their own learning in the classroom. So with what we're trying to do with online presentation is to combine all of these four, because we cannot do away with lecture. It's still a very important, vital part of learning, even in the 21st century, even in the era of 4.0. So it's important that we get all the best features of this. So our challenge is, how do we transplant all these good things happening in the physical classroom to a digital classroom or remote learning? So that's what we're trying to do this afternoon. Okay, so thank you very much for the responses to our 52 respondents. Thank you very much. So more than half of the participants participated here. So thank you very much. Okay. So here are the learning outcomes. So for the oral presentation, basically, we have two learning outcomes here. One for the oral presentation, and second for the performance-based assessment. So basically, for oral presentation, we want you to familiarize yourselves with the interactive and common online presentation concepts and tools. I know you've been using this, but you will just like try to give some add-on, some tweak to how you're doing it, and transplant that into a digital remote learning environment. So we will talk about tips and techniques on how to make our presentation more digestible and efficient for us as service providers, as academic service providers, and for our students. Okay, and designing contents for online presentations, and tips also in making recordings, on how to make it collaborative. So we will do some collaborative work. And then for performance-based assessment, we want to be clear about the concept of performance-based assessment, okay, as used to assess learning outcomes. We want to familiarize ourselves with the different types of scoring rubrics that can be used in evaluating different academic tasks from different disciplines. We also want to make use of these rubrics given certain prompts.
And then create informed teaching and learning plan and the use of performance-based assessment and oral presentation. And design one. Okay. So let's start with online presentation.
Okay, so there are basically three types of online presentation. One is online slide decks. It's like deck of cards, and this is very Prezi. If you know, I know you're very familiar with Prezi, and also SlideShare. So basically, they have several slides there. So that's what you call slide decks. So this is an online slide decks, and it's very common. The next one is the narrated audio presentations. With the narrated audio presentations, you basically have someone walking you through the online presentation or the PowerPoint presentation or Google slide presentation. So if you have a webinar, someone is talking and then they're flashing slides here and there. There are some flat visuals, 2D visuals. Then you have the narrated audio presentations. With the interactive video presentations, this is more active because here now you have the Q&A, you have like the Mentimeter, you have some activities there, you have videos, you have narrations. Basically, you have all the elements that you can find online. So what are the tips for creating online presentations? Okay, on visuals and images, okay, we have to realize that with the online presentation, you are competing with so many other information online. And to be very worthy in your presentation only means that the possibility of not getting the attention of your viewers or listeners or your students for that matter is highly probable. Okay, so how do we make our online visuals very enticing? Okay, so better visuals and images, meaning better visuals and images would mean getting more attention from the people, from the audience. Okay, so how do you have to make sure that your visuals and images are attention grabber, not pixelized, etc., etc. And it's also a good idea to present different visuals like graphs, diagram, photos, GIFs, illustrations, and animation. And we have to remember all the time that for each one of these, there are messages embedded in these visuals and images. So we have to note, we have to be constantly aware of what these messages are, because these are the same messages we are bringing forth to our students. So each visual is a representation of an information and message. So before we use a visual, we have to ask ourselves, what is the message of this visual? What do I want the students to learn from this visual? Because instead of putting it to words, you're putting it into visuals and images. Next, don't avoid crowding the slide with too much text. And appropriate attention grabber graphics, because there are so many attention grabber graphics, but we have to make sure that it's appropriate. Okay, we have to take note also of the number of slides and lines per slide per minute. Okay, there are so many suggestions on this. Well, there's no one fixed suggestion would say, oh, eto na to. Pero parang like a rule of thumb, they say in a slide, you have only like maximum of 6 to 8 lines per slide. So there are no like paragraphs or sentences that's going to be disastrous to your presentation. And it cannot be too many slides, because that will also not will cut the attention of your audience or your students for that matter. Now, when it comes to voice recording, it's not perfect, meaning the natural pattern of conversation will always be, I mean, expect that it's gonna happen like now, like I'm pausing, I'm making a stop, I'm making some junctures and markers. That's very natural because in a natural pattern of a conversation, these are the things also we hear from speakers. So it's okay to, you know, give your students some feel that you are kind of monitoring what you're saying, you are thinking before you're gonna say something to them. So it's okay. So the natural pattern of conversation is okay to be heard in a voice recording. So when we do voice recording, we always have to remember or think of an actual audience. In our case, our students. So when we do voice recording, because it's kind of off because you're talking but nobody's there to listen to you. When we do it teacher fronted in front of our students, it's very natural because someone is hearing you, they're receiving your message, the information you give them. But with voice recording, chances are that you do it alone. You will not ask probably your family members to be your audience. So it's unlikely that you will do that. It's very off to do that. So so we have to always remember, keep that in our minds. Now, okay, let me just imagine that there are people listening to me. That way, we kind of force ourselves to make our recording very natural and spontaneous. So reading the contents of the slide, because if you put too much words in the slide, the tendency is you just keep reading and reading and reading and reading it, and the students would notice that, and that will not really get the attention of the students. And the thing is, if we do audio recorded presentations, and all the things that we say there during the presentation can be found in the slides, the students will think, why should I still listen to let's say my teacher, my professor, my facilitator, if everything that he or she is saying can be found in this slide? So the value of the audio recording is to give some explanations, some illustrations, maybe some sharing some experiences, personal experiences, or sharing some readings that you had, and you kind of say it naturally in a voice recording. So that's the value of that. Next. In voice recording, always test the audio recording. And it's not easy. Audio recording, it's not easy because our tendency is to sound perfect, sound right all the time. So, and there's going to be feedback. Like now, we experience some technical difficulties, the weather and all, the connection. So expect that. So let's not be frustrated. Let's expect that to happen. Okay? And pausing during recording. So it can't be one recording in, let's say, 10 minutes, 5 minutes. Chances are in one recording, it's going to take quite some time. So I think patience is the name of the game here. So online presentation also challenges us to be more patient in the way we design and create our learning tasks for our students. And next, reducing interruptions. Okay, well, it's very common now, and it's highlighted now that we're like 100% online. So during meetings, you notice that some of your colleagues unintentionally on their microphones, and you can hear some background noise, some casual conversations at home, and then all the emotions are there, and so these interruptions will be the focus of your students' attention. So if you give them some online presentation and they can hear these interruptions, chances are that will be the focus, and they will remember these interruptions because these are just snippets of what they're hearing. So this is the unique thing, the asterisk case. So that is where their attention will be. So we have to reduce interruptions all the time. So keep it short. Okay, now with the interactive videos, definitely among the three types of online presentation, the use of narrative interactive videos is the one that is mostly recommended, but definitely most difficult to do. Okay, with interactive videos, you try to look for videos that will draw attention. You use short videos. You navigate the presentation. So like, okay, we're on slide 6. Then let's go back to learning outcomes, or let's look at the last part. So that way, you create some kind of a fluidity and interaction and spontaneity in doing your online presentation. So it's kind of mirror the traditional classroom transplanted in a digital space. Okay, and it's also a good idea to insert Q&A, a COP quiz, and a short survey like what we did sa Mentimeter. And you can also add audio narrative. Okay, so samples of online presentation. So may I request Doc Chini to share the samples of online presentations that I sent. So just to give them an idea of these different types of online presentations. Okay, so this one is on IP studies, education, transcending to flexible learning. This is one of the presentations I did for HIEd also on IP studies on July 31. So I made this an example just to show the point that can be online presentation. So basically you see here that it's flat. It's flat. So next slide, please. Okay, so you can just see here just the text. Next slide. There are no picture at all. So it's just like slide, slide, slide. And if there are pictures, there are very few pictures. Next slide, please. Next one, please. Okay. So I will not talk about this presentation. I just want to show you that this is basically commonly what we do in the classroom. We'll just, in a slide, we present, and then here there's a use of a diagram. So this is the framework. Okay, so it kind of break the attention from the monotony of just like plain text, black and white, and now you have one color and then other shapes in that slide. Next slide, please. That one also. So with this table, it kind of like break the monotony, okay? But that is not still interactive. It's just like the plain presentation of the concepts. Next slide, please. Okay, now here you have the pictures, okay? I know you noticed the difference now. During the first few slides wherein you just have the plain text, and then the two other slides wherein you have the table and the diagram, and now you have the picture. So these pictures basically draw your attention to it. Am I right? So it is a natural grabber. So it's always a good advice to have 1, 2, or 3 picture, because as they read the text, they will also look at the picture and get the sense of, you know, what you really want to say there. Okay, next slide, please. I think this is the last slide. Okay, so what is presented here? Okay, here the discussions, another picture. Okay, thank you very much, Doc Chini. So the point here is to show you that if it's online slide presentation, basically you just have those things. You have the visuals, the images, but you don't have that like the interactive thing. Now let's have the other one, the audio recorded. May we request again Doc Chini to show the next sample? So this example is for the online slide presentation. By the way, with the Google Slide and PowerPoint presentation, you can readily, easily, of course, do this. And I know that you've been doing that for quite some time now, because, you know, we are so familiar already with the use of PowerPoint. But with the other types of slide presentation, it will be a good opportunity to utilize the other features, less commonly used features of Google Slide and PowerPoint presentation. So can we basically the point of this is that you can insert audio in the PowerPoint. So ayun lang, we just have to be, you know, like this. Because you're not so used to it. I'm not also so much used to the having the voice there, except when you have the webinar and all, and or you have a technical people to help you out. So it is not going to be a problem. But once it becomes like our sole responsibility, then yeah, we have to take be very cautious about that. Okay, so I think that's it. So basically the point of the presentation is to give a sample and to show that, you know, you can integrate the audio presentation, so you can elaborate on the visuals that you present. Okay, so what about the interactive? Okay, the interactive is basically the same elements you have for online slide presentation and audio presentation. And the thing for interactive, you have something like this. Before we get into the, let's watch a TED Talk video about indigenous knowledge. Okay, so you can ask them to watch a video, and then you can ask them later. You can have more pictures, of course, and then you can ask them also like some kind of a takeaway, and then you can use the pad. Any questions? So, okay, so they can like post their questions in whatever format. So you can have the Padlet, and then they can send you the questions. Okay, so I think that's it for online presentation. So like what the presentation, the slide says here, any questions?
All right, we're engaging the participants now to type in any possible questions. We know we had some technical difficulties, but you may want to ask, or you may want to share your thoughts. Okay. I'm looking through the Q&A right now so far.
So I apologize for the technical issues in the presentation.
I guess it's a very informative topic, but it's just really that the problem is the internet connection, not only from your end, but even our participants are also experiencing a lot of difficulties in signing in when they were able to get on board, even getting the signals clearly. All right.
So maybe while waiting for, yeah, do you have questions?
None so far. You can proceed, Dr. Rose.
Thank you very much. So I think one of the things that we do in when we design our online presentation is also to take into account how difficult the internet connection would be. So as much as we want it to be very interactive and have so many audio recordings, but if it's very difficult in our respective localities, contexts, to have that full online support, then I think we can be very realistic in our approach in thinking about how much time should we have for interactive presentation. So we can have the features of these three. So include natin siya. Okay, one example, for example, in my former student, she lives in one of the islands there in the Babuyan group of islands, and she told us that sometimes the internet connection would not be available for the entire day. So, and if it's like 6 in the evening, there will be no internet connection chances are that you will not really get connected. So these are the things that we have to take into account, not only on our end, but also on the end of our students. So the good thing is we have different online presentations that we can utilize to still maximize the learning support that we give to our students. Okay, so should I proceed now to the next slide, please? So I think I have to share my previous slide.
Go ahead, Dr. Rose.
Okay, so so I think we're here on the online resources. Although there are so many online resources available, the problem is really the connection. Although we want it to be very interactive, we want them to participate right away, but you know the difficulty, the connection difficulty is very pressing and very real. So I think it's something that we really have to learn to navigate. Okay, so some of the online resources for our interactive video presentation, of course, you have the Mentimeter, the Padlet, the Visby, the Powtoon, Brainshark, etc. Okay. Also, the downside of many of these, like Brainshark, Visby, you can get it for free for like days or a month, and after that you'll be asked to pay for the membership or for the access. So that's a downside because you know that's another cost on our part. So but there are so many online resources, and when we can really navigate the internet on the kind of tools that are available, programs, tools, etc., that are available online to help make our online presentations really engaging and interactive. And another thing is like, I think we should not be afraid to look for various resources, but at the same time, not be overwhelmed by these resources because they are really, really overwhelming. And then at the end of the day, you say, parang ang dami-daming similar features. Like the Powtoon features are also in the Visby features, Brainshark features, so forth and so on. And then they're also in the Google Slide and then the PowerPoint. So I would suggest that we navigate also the long been used the Google Slide and PowerPoint and find out for ourselves what else we can do using those tools. Okay, so here's the prompt. Okay, choose any or one of your MS PowerPoint presentations or slide presentation with 10 or less slides. Or it can be, if you don't want it 10, 5 slides lang, that's gonna be fine. And try to add some features to convert that simple slide into a narrated audio presentation or interactive presentation. So, do we still have time? Wala na ata. So, kahit maglagay ng isang feature doon, or if you're not gonna make it na kasi wala na tayong time, maybe you can suggest to us what do you think you want to do to make that slide more interactive. Ma'am Liz?
Siguro, Ma'am Rose, this morning kasi we had a presentation of Moodle, and they can create assignments or activities rather. Maybe we can engage them, or we can ask them to prepare the PowerPoint slides after the session this morning, and they can attach it in one of the activities that were asked of them. So that way they have more time, longer time to work on it. Meanwhile, we can proceed with the succeeding presentations of the slides po.
Yeah, okay, that will be good. Thank you very much. And I think you have breakout session tomorrow, so maybe you will consider working on this tomorrow. Okay, so what's our takeaway? So, okay, they can go to the link. They can go to the link and type in their takeaway. Okay, so I think I can proceed. Maybe we'll just go back to this and then flash whatever they will write. So their link is here. Please feel free to go to this link whenever possible. Okay? Okay, so we're done already with online presentation. Now we're on performance-based assessment. Okay, performance-based assessment is basically a response to the scientific way of assessing, which is on multiple choice, dichotomous selection, meaning true or false, yes or no, etc., etc. Okay, so what is the drive towards this? Okay, when the scientific assessment, before they don't call it assessment, the tradition is to call it testing. Okay, it's in the tradition of language testing. Sure, like the people who really propelled the idea of testing, and later on, some educators look at it not as like testing because it's standardized and all. Instead, migrated into the concept of performance assessment. Hence, we have what we call assessment now as opposed to testing. So why performance-based assessment? Because when the scientific era of testing became very popular, they noticed something, and that something is some students who are like thought to be very good were not performing really well in these tests. So they kind of thought about it and asked themselves as educators, what is missing, what is lacking, and so the likes of this one, these assessment people, the reading people, etc. They started to talk about this Wiggins and all at the forefront of that, Russell, Erashan. So they keep on talking about what kind of evaluation, vetting must we do to be able to really help our students bring out the learned skills. So performance-based assessment is checking on what they've learned from the course. And when we say what they learned from the course, the things that we have in the learning outcomes are essentially skills and knowledge. And that content knowledge, you can call it content knowledge. You can the others now, they have some conversation of giving some layers more to the idea of content knowledge. And if we talk about performance-based assessment, we're looking at helping our students show what they learned in the concepts, skills, and knowledge, and present it in ways that, more engaging, more interactive by giving products, performances, or other process-oriented outputs. So, performance-based assessment is also called an alternative assessment because it's basically an alternative to traditional assessment. Now, the traditional assessment is essentially the scientific era kind of testing. So you have the dichotomous and the multiple choice. Okay, so from the word itself, performance. So someone has to perform. So the students have to perform. So what are they going to perform? So basically, they can produce speech, written outputs, visual outputs, design, etc., etc. Okay, and Noonan in 1989 call it tasks, and the task would involve you comprehend the concept, you manipulate the concept, you produce the concept, and you interact based on that concept or knowledge or skill. So there are 6 elements according to Noonan. So you need to have a goal. Why are you doing this assessment? What is it for? So if you look at the goal, you have to connect that with the learning outcome. Okay, what is the input? What do you expect from them? What is the format, the activity? What is your role? What is the role of the learner? And in which setting are you gonna have them work on this? So the performance-based assessment, unlike a scientific era of like testing and the traditional assessment, which you can do like individually, very much focused individually. With performance-based assessment, you can have various layers in terms of the number of people who can work on a particular task. So you can do this, you can have your students do this individually, dyad, triad, small group, and big groups. Okay, so these are the characteristics. So this is adaptive from Stiglitz, okay, one of the who's who in terms of assessment, measurement, and evaluation. So if you say performance-based assessment, what's the purpose? Okay, translate knowledge and understanding into action. You've learned the concept, show me how you learned the concept, okay? Let's say you learn how to play the piano well, okay? Show me how to play the piano well, say. And for example, you say, oh, I can deliver a convincing speech. Then you say, show me how do you deliver a convincing speech. So basically, you want them to prove that they've acquired that skill, that knowledge through performance and products. Okay, so what's the purpose? The purpose is to let the student plan, construct, deliver an original response. So the major advantages, it's rich evidence and performance skills, and influence on learning, emphasizes on skill and knowledge in relevant problems. So here's the checklist. Okay, so basically, if you ask your students to perform something, they need to ask themselves this: can they perform it? When you give them a task, I can perform it myself, or at least I can imagine how to perform. When you give your student a task, these are the things that you need to think about first. You ask them to work on something, you must be able to work to do it too. Or if not, at least you can imagine how it can be done. Okay, for example, you ask your students to design for, let's say, plan a house, plan a building. You ask yourself, can you do it yourself? Can you plan a building? Can you design a building? You ask them to use AutoCAD. Can you do it yourself? Okay. Or if you can't do that, at least you can imagine. Okay. One of them, let me just share with you one of the stories that I'll never forget is one of my professors who's a noted a researcher. And one of the things he told us in our PhD class is that many of those who are really researchers are the ones who are very, very tough when it comes to checking a student's research work. So it kind of puzzled me because first, I didn't understand where he was coming from. And second, like, is it really possible that you're checking your students' outputs and haven't really engaged in research? It kind of like puzzled me. But now I get his point. These points basically this: performance-based assessment. That if you ask your student to do something, if you can't do that, at least you can imagine how it is done properly. Okay, so you have to another one. You have to list the criteria. Now you can ask the help of your colleagues because sometimes we're clouded by our own imagination, conceptualization of things, and it's always a good advice to have a soundboard. A soundboard would be someone who will help us look at our outputs, let's say differently. My angle na they can see it, but we can't, so we can ask for their help. Okay, so you have to make sure that the criteria that we set is observable, and we use it's very important, specific words to describe the performance. So they advise refraining from using words like good, appropriate, correctly, neatly, because you say She writes neatly. Okay, what does neatly mean? Okay, so if that's in the criteria, neatly, what does that mean? Does neatly mean no smudges on the side, that the line is that the no erasures, what else? No erasures and no liquid paper or something, no side notes, and no ballpen erasures, etc., etc. And the paper is clean, no smudges, etc., etc. Okay. So, and then, for example, if you say, can play the piano. Okay. So if it's like performance and it's playing the piano, what are you looking for? Maybe you're looking for that the piece is memorized and the tune is like correct pitch, etc. Okay. What else? In other disciplines like cooking, yan, sa ITHM, how do you set the criteria to say like this is a well-cooked food? Maybe sa yung meat, hindi siya raw, okay? And temperature, siguro tama. Okay, yung floppiness, pag cake, correct yung consistency, or yung consistency the way it's supposed to be, etc., etc. Okay, so yung height na pag umaalsa, nare-reach na yon. So these are the things that you check on. So in short, it's not easy to set criteria for performance-based assessment because we have to be very specific, we have to be very meticulous, we have to really figure out that we are giving the correct criteria and we're checking the correct behavior or response of the students. Okay, so these are some of the examples, and I'm sure you can add more to this. This is like very quick samples lang. Pag oral production speech, you can have debate, siguro mga individual presentation, mga stage act, or etc. Okay, you can have that for speech oral production. You can have, let's say, a business presentation. So you can have those things. So it can be done individually or small group. For written outputs, yan, you can have the reflection journal, you can have the logs, creative fiction, creative nonfiction, and then you can do it individual, pair. So siguro kung group, pwede pero masyadong complex na. So I put there intentionally until pair. With the performance art like dance, singing, other recitals, yeah, definitely you can have individual group or sometimes class, which means bigger group pa yan. With visual outputs, you can have the video segments, you can have the paintings, you can have sketches, you can have like drawings. You can do that individually or also by group. So kinesthetics sa sports, yan, individual, pair, and also large groups. Sa design naman, you can have engineering tools and products, IT tools and application, architectural design like building and planning, landscaping applications, etc. So you can do that definitely, mga small group things, because it's really not advisable to do it individually or ano. For the design outputs, the assessment can be collaborative in nature. What is the difference between collaboration and cooperation? With collaboration, you work as a team, okay, but individually you can have like assigned tasks to do. And then you can put it together. With the cooperation, kayo talagang core group at walang nagsosolo on the side. But with collaboration, because the responsibility is very big, like pupunta dito sa isang place, pupunta yun, another one. So going to one, let's say one local unit, let's say one local unit, impossible naman parang lahat kayo doon. So kung isang sa local unit yun, one family, isa doon, and then another family, isa. So individually, you have responsibilities, but you put all the outputs together, and that becomes your main product. And then you can have the mix. Okay, so case study, library research, capstone project, research project, because all of these things Ito talagang pair yan. So, problem-based learning, inquiry-based learning, project-based learning would make use of these kinds of performance-based assessment. Okay, so what are the methods for recording, observing? So quickly, anecdotal record, checklist, rating scale, scoring rubrics. You know, sa anecdotal rated, this is very seldomly used. But you know, this is very helpful if the course is on, let's say, medical and also mga for special education. Yan. They need to learn how to do this anecdotal record. Okay. So, next, you can have the checklist, rating scale, and then ito. With the rating scale, you must learn also, we must all learn to develop scoring rubrics. Okay. So for the scoring rubrics, the most popular is, of course, analytic. But there are also other types of scoring rubrics, the primary trait and the holistic scoring rubric. Okay. So what's the difference between and among these three types of scoring rubrics? With the primary trait, okay, let's focus first on the analytic because analytic is something that is most common to all of us. Okay, let's take the case of writing. Di ba, pag writing, you have grammar, you have organization, you have use of language, or maybe you have convention, you have also their content. Okay, that's for analytics. So you see different parts, components on how to evaluate writing are present. But with the primary trait, let's say primary trait is like developing the content, organizing it. You can have the organization. Okay. So, ano ang mga trait in organizing? That's the one that you will have for primary trait. Okay. For writing, let's say organization. Concise ba to? Tama ba yung ginamit na, okay, this the idea na organization from one idea to the next connected. Okay, so these are the things that you try to look into. With the holistic, general na yung tingin mo because you want to just have a impression of, you know, basically the message, the information that the output is giving you. Okay, so that's for the scoring rubrics. So creating a performance-based assessment. So for the activity, so this is a prompt. Create a performance-based assessment task in one of your topics in your course. So it's just the task. Let's say if it is a, let's say, oral presentation. Okay. What exactly do you want them to do? Okay. Do you want them to deliver a 2-minute or 3-minute oral presentation? What topic? What do you expect from them? Etc. etc. Okay. So I think, am I on time? So I think that ends my presentation.
It's so, okay, Dr. Rose, because we lost a couple of minutes. So unless you want to extend a few more, is that the last?
Yes, that's the last
you have. Okay,
yes.
All right. So we can entertain questions then. All right.
Yes.
So friends, you won't see me on cam because I would like to preserve whatever internet connection we have. So we would like to entertain questions now. Maybe you can start writing about it. And once again, I may be very redundant about the apologies, but this is beyond our control. And again, this is the challenge that we all will be facing the moment we all go on board. Mean to say all basic ed and all higher ed will be going online. And in fact, it's not only in the country or in the Philippines, because I would see from the FB posts of my friends based abroad, several of them also have their children. I mean, almost all over the world, I suppose, are on online classes. So our telecom companies really have to do better, no? Hopefully. And I guess I saw also an advertisement that PLDT has some new marketing scheme they have right now, or they have certain plans, a little cheaper than actually what we have right now, but I don't know if it can respond to your request. Okay, what we're seeing right now, Dr. Rose, is a posting of their contribute or the participants' thoughts or their takeaway, no, from your presentation. So maybe if you wish, you can read through them, or unless you want,
Yes, sure.
so you can pick it up. All right. Would you
Yeah,
like to
this
do
is
the
very
annotation?
true. Yes. Yes, of
Go ahead.
course. Thank you very much. Okay, this is very true. We really want it to be very interactive, but at the same time, the reality of internet connection, clearly as we saw, it's really a problem. But for me, my take here is that we have to embrace including this internet connection. That's why, because the internet connection is, I think, less of a problem, but more of our concern is what if there is already like a very good internet connection? What can we offer them? So I'd like to look at it that way, but not discounting the fact that, it's really problematic. Okay, that's true. Students don't just listen to a lecture, they give them to think once they see the pictures that will make them imagine more than the lesson. That is very true. They try to make the connection between the lesson and then the picture. That's why it's really very good advice to have visuals in the presentation. But also at the same time, as I don't know if you call me an old school, but since the students now were born in the age of technology, meaning this smartphones and all, their tendency is to be less appreciative of texts. Okay, but there are also good points of text. So how can we help them navigate from this very digitalized era, or liking, into someone who's like liking also the text as visual content, or as visuals? Because for us, for our our generation, our responsibility was to navigate from the so used to all text, all words and all, into something that is highly visual. That was our responsibility. Now, with our students, if we flip natin yan, reverse naman sa kanila. Okay. So yun, that's my take here. Okay, I want to read some more. Okay, online presentation is the best substitute for traditional presentation. Both have pros and cons. Clearly, that is very true. As you've seen that, that's why we presented here 3 types of online presentations, because we want to impress to our students that if you cannot do interactive because there's going to be a problem, you can make it engaging using videos and just a small slide presentation. And if we say technology, it's not always the most high-tech technology. Pwede rin naman yung navigate natin from the simplest one to the most complex. Because after all, we're just starting to make this thing full online. So I think we also have to, take a deep breath in, handling all of this. Okay, I like the comment there that there's like social media distractions. That's number 1. That is correct. Okay, the more high tech na you make for the presentation, the engagement, that is a reality that we have to accept and not be very let's say very conscious about. Just like try to figure out how can we have a very good, what common sense must we have, so that we can make use of the social media for the students learning, but not dependent on it, that to the point that it might destroy the students learning in total. Okay, true. Attention span is limited. Kaya since the attention span is limited, what we can do is really to make it interactive. May pop quiz ka, you have like this, may takeaway ka in the Padlet, then you ask them to do some activities and all, and then you post it. Okay. And then we have to be also very lenient, like what one of you mentioned here. I like the fact that you have so many takeaways. I'm so liking this. Thank you very much. I'm impressed that you have all of these contributions. This is really, really one way, a very good way of making our discussion really interactive. Okay, so let me read this. With the new normal, teaching becomes more challenging but exciting, correct, as we will be encountering all forms of problem. Expect that. Maybe, may it be internet, economic concern, and the readiness of the faculty. But the bright side of it, despite all of this, we can still impart our knowledge to them. Yes, you can become like co-constructors. The students also can give what they have to you, and you can give what you have to them. So no matter how tired you are, do not lose hope. Your hardships, like, okay, I like your comments. Thank you very much. Lessen the number of learning activities. Yeah, yes, it's really hard to manage time, especially. Yes, that's correct. These are realities. So maybe what I can suggest, what are the realities? How are these realities affecting in a positive way learning? How are these realities affecting learning in a negative way? Maybe I think it's a good idea to have that kind of checklist. Don't you think, Ma'am Liz? We have that checklist. We have a checklist of the realities that are affecting the good points of all of this, and then the ones that are affecting us in a not so productive way, and maybe figure out how we can navigate both.
Dr. Rose, may I offer a suggestion? And
go ahead,
I had my classes last Tuesday afternoon, and it is so difficult. I'll just put on my camera. Hopefully, I won't get lost. I had my classes, and we were on Canvas conference, or Big Blue button. And when I was engaging my class, I only see about 5 of them with their cameras on, and I have a class of 40. The rest I do not see. And let's say if I call them out, example, Junior, what are your thoughts on what I said or what I just showed a while ago? The names are there, but they don't respond, and they would say, at times, some of them would just say, sorry, Mom, I have very poor internet connection. Sorry, my mic is not working, and all that. So this gives me, and I reflected, and I felt maybe this is how we can circumvent or solve this problem about internet connection being lost during our presentation. Let's do our online presentations at first. Now, should there be internet problems, then because we have pre-recorded actually our PowerPoint or some of our lessons, we can attach it in our module. So those on asynchronous, they don't have to go online, or if they went online with asynchronous, pero for some reason may problema sa internet, they can still access your activities or documents because it's there. It's loaded already either on Moodle or on Canvas. How's that, Dr. Rose?
I think that's a very good idea, since that you have already the online presentations and they are able to view it ahead of time, a month before, a week before. So when you do asynchronous, it's just about like what you mentioned in the Mentimeter, open discussion, class discussion. And so it's like a very nice conversation between and among students and teachers. And I think that's going to be good, because the thing that is problematic with the online connection is like what we saw, everything is loaded. Like you have the online presentation ongoing, it is you have the audience, the people in there. So it's like clouding everything, which is a very natural occurrence in a setup like this. But then we can say with these online presentations, we can ask them to view it ahead of time, maybe take down notes. And in the asynchronous, it's all about having a nice conversation. It's like going to Starbucks or going to Jollibee, and think of the online space as Jollibee or Starbucks, and have like a friendly conversation, which is very educational, academic. That way, learning becomes really something engaging and fun to everybody. And I think even the students will like that because they will not be pressured have you do this?
Oh,
You
well,
be casual, and even the task, like I've read that already. Oh, what did you write there? So, kwentuhan lang talaga. I think it's one of the things that we need to learn with the digital or remote space. Now, they said there are 3 stages when it comes to learning, digital learning. The first one, is that it's just an add-on for the regular classroom. Okay? So, meaning, nagpa-PowerPoint ka, or kay, oh, sige, yung nga tong website na page. Okay, so but that is very add-on lang, parang just like an incidental teaching. That's the first stage. That's the first stage. And then the second stage, they said for online learning, for online or using of online or digital space or remote learning environment is that blended. Nagbe-blend. 50 for the face-to-face, and then the digital learning environment, remote learning environment is another 50%. So 50-50. Okay, this week we go face-to-face, and another week we go digital. So okay, it's okay. Well, it must have taken like some time, years. But unfortunately, we have the pandemic. So everybody is forced to go in the third stage, which is full digital. So that's where the problem is. So with the digital, the question there's still a very big gap in literature in terms of learning what is going on in a digital learning environment. It is not a simple transplanting of, that's why remote learning is like more on transplanting. But eventually, it will not be like that because we have to recognize now as we go along and hopefully not under this condition, as we go along in, familiarizing ourselves with the digital environment, what is going on in a digital environment. It's not just a difference in terms of locus. This environment is unique in itself. So I think this is something that all of us are not fully ready with. Because not everyone in the Philippines, not all academic institutions in the Philippines are full blended. Some are on stage 1, some are on stage 2, and I don't think we can find institutions that are full stage 3. So there's none. And then we have this pandemic and everyone has to go full stage 3. So can you just imagine how problematic that is? So my take for this, I want to be like a positivist, like let's not be too, let's be kind to ourselves, okay? We have to recognize also our efforts, and it's good enough, if not more than good enough, because we are already on a stage that we think that we'll be there in the next 10 or 20 years. Kasi nandun pa lang tayo sa first stage eh. Nandun pa lang tayo sa first stage. That's not even 100%. Some are full teacher-fronted pa rin. So, and then now we have full third stage. So can you just imagine? We don't know yet what's going on in this digital environment. What is this
Dr.
environment?
Rose.
Yes,
Dr. Rose, you see, the level of anxiety is not only high for students, but even for us teachers. Like as it is right now, we even have what would have been a 2-week training has been collapsed into 5. So that's why we're all pressed for time. Like we wanted to accommodate as many learnings as we can, as many modules as we can, and then we have in an hour or 2. We have to present everything. So we were reading feedback. Dr. Mayet and I and Ms. Chini have been reading your feedback. Although we are overwhelmed with the very positive comments, we do take in cognizance also of the issues raised, like how they wish they can have more time, they can ask more questions, they would also be sufficient time to work on activities. You see, we all understand the limitation, and as you said, now that we are in this particular stage, we probably have to be a little bit more understanding, a little bit more flexible, you know. So yeah, it's a challenge. Now, Dr. Rose, may I switch to a question that they would like to ask you?
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
All right. Now, here's one who's asked, from Noli Berhil Kirit of Mindanao State University at Nawaan. Okay, his concern is about science subjects and the rubrics to be used. Do you have any suggestion as to where even teachers can find rubrics, not only for science? Because I admit I'm not an edu person, so I said, saan ako maghahanap ng rubrics? Would you provide us some tips, please?
Yes. Okay. Before I answer that question, may I first know the context, the more specific information about that, because that way I can really figure out what to suggest. Okay. If it's a science course, what specific science course?
She
Is
did
it
not
engineering?
mention. Maybe this.
Okay.
Bio, perhaps chemistry, perhaps.
Okay, because there are different science courses and each one would have a different focus. Okay, so that focus will be the basis for the selection of decision onto what kind of rubric that you want to do. Okay, first, is your purpose for assessing is like you will grade them right away? Have you asked them to work on other things before this? These are the considerations. Okay, so let me give you a context. Let's try to imagine that's my class. Okay, let's say it's my science class. It's engineering class, and it's a concept engineering class, meaning they have to design. So basically, in that concept engineering, I want them to present some concepts that will, let's say, help in, let's say, navigating the information in terms of delivery of information. Okay, let's say it's concept engineering, and let's say okay, so let's say it's in a remote area. There's a problem that's transportation and all. Okay, so what's the main goal here? The main goal is to help them find solution. So the rubric must be focus on that, okay? Which means you have to look more into how much that product has resulted to the solution of that specified problem, and less more on, like, let's say, language technicalities. So that is one of my suggestions. So the core here is know the core of the course. And that is the basis for the rubrics. And most likely with that, I would really suggest to use holistic scoring rubric or primary trait. Why? Because you're looking at the core, the design that they'll be able to do. So that's my suggestion. And don't worry about learning resources for this, because there are so many in the web that you can find, but it's always a good advice to use them, to look at them only as, let's say, resource for the design. For the design meaning appearance. But what to include there, it has to be unique to your experience. Okay, I hope I was able to answer it, Ma'am Liz.
Yeah, I hope. Anyway, she will write here if she will inform us if she wants to seek further clarification. I like to correct myself. I'm sorry because I'm not familiar with the places, so I must have mispronounced it. It is Naawan, no? So not Nawan. Okay, my apologies. All right. Could you also recommend a rubric for NSTP?
Okay.
Would you have a, okay, go.
For NSTP, if it's not graded, checklist na lang. Mas maganda.
There's one very helpful tip here. I was looking at the recommendations even from one of the participants for rubrics for higher education. Somehow I lost it. It must have been published. But if you see it now in the published section, please just follow it through. I'm sorry, I lost the thread. A lot of questions or topics have been raised here. Wait, let me see. There are other points that they would like to. Okay. All right. Here is from Sheena Doria from Pangasinan State University. I'm also interested with rubrics, even just for general ones like written output, essay, or oral presentation. Dr. Rose, there are websites which actually can give you samples of rubrics, right? You just probably have to modify them. Would you be familiar of any?
Okay. If you like, I think you have the email list. I can share with them some of the rubrics I created. So they can see, because many of the samples that you have online actually is for K to 12. That's the thing with the rubrics. If you navigate it, there's so many for K to 12 because it's not still a common practice in higher education institutions. But in the Philippines, it's already, like in FEU, in our case, it's institutionalized. I don't know in other universities, but you know, I'm gonna give it to you because with the samples that you have, makikita ninyo very simple because it's K to 12. Okay, but if it's higher ed, you need to make it more complex, of course. So if you have the email loop, I can share with you some of the rubrics I created, customized based on the requirement of the course. So they can see na, ito pala yung track nila. If I could share it here, sana. I don't know how I can share it here.
Maybe we can email.
Okay,
you can email it to them.
Give me the email. I can email it to you, and then maybe you can share it to everybody, so they can see like pag higher education, the concepts are like, diba, mas malawak, and the concepts are, let's say, deeper. Dapat may breadth and depth.
Okay, yeah, all right. I finally found the contribution of Ms. Rosemary Amparado of the Mindanao State University. She says the collection of rubrics is found at, even if I read it, mahirap no? But anyway, hopefully we can publish it. It's at csu.edu, and it's a 58-page rubric. Also, you can try Rubistar, and you can also open Pinterest. There are some rubrics which I find helpful, and then you just adjust. You can delete some of the requirements there or criteria, or you can add, you can even change scores. And as you see there on your screen right now, it has various topics, but the one on Rubistar is not much for college actually, because the college requires higher requirements or higher technical. Yes, you can fill in the rubrics or the matrix and then assign certain points, So yeah, these are good samples, and the ones also shared by Ma'am Ampara, if I'm not mistaken, again, Ampara, these are, we can share and we can email them to you. All right, yes, go ahead, Dr. Ross.
May I just share? Okay. I believe that in doing the rubrics, it's not a standalone rubrics. It has to be part of the general plan. So what I do is, like, I have the set of criteria that my students have to meet, and each one would, require them to have an output. So therefore, if there's an output for each one of them, I need a rubric. So what I do, I have a rubric matrix. So what is that rubric matrix? A rubric matrix is basically, you have there the kind of tasks that you require from your students and what kind of scoring rubric will you be using for that one, and who will be involved. For example, if it's like, say, in my class, it's service learning. So it's service learning project. So what is my rubric there? Okay, I will do analytic rubric because there are so many dimensions of the project that they need to work on. They have to do the report, they have to plan the project, they have to talk to people, so forth and so on. So I use analytic. Okay, now what about if it's a metacognitive report, which is basically just a summary synthesis of an article, and there's some components there. So for that, I use the primary trait because each part of that metacognitive report would akin to a particular trait. What about if class presentation, like interaction, then you have to grade how much they're participating, etc., etc. With that, I use holistic rubric because that you're looking at the overall contribution. So that's the point here is to really create a matrix in which you clearly identify and share with your students and discuss with your students why you're using a holistic rubric, analytic rubric, primary trait rubric, and why it is the best for a particular output that you're asking from them. Thank you, Ma'am.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, and another, what I love about this interaction we have with our participants, they're also sharing the resources like Virgel Mirano of the Central Bicol State University of Agriculture shares that smartsheet.com also has free excellent rubrics, and Chris Chans from CTU said she did try Ruby Star, but she had to modify some of the rubrics. Yep. That's great. Well, I guess time check, it's 2:57. Would you like to say a few more things, Dr. Rose, before we close your session? By the way, we have some questions also for Richmond. I'm going to do that after Dr. Rose. Dr. Rose, any reminder for our participants?
Okay, thank you very much, Ma'am Liz. Can I turn my camera on?
Sure, go ahead.
Thank you. I apologize for presenting without my camera on because of some technical difficulties. Okay, like what I mentioned earlier, this is a navigating a new space, which is the digital learning space, learning environment. So I want to call it environment. We have to learn what's going on in this environment because this environment is more than just tools, more than what Moodle, Canvas, and other LMS can offer us. We need to know how students are behaving, interacting, and learning in this space. Currently, our university, the Far Eastern University, we're working on a study. I'm spearheading the studies on online interaction, altruism in an online space, and how are students really socially creating that connection in a digital space. And I think that's my something that I want to share with everyone as we try to make ourselves familiar, as we familiarize ourselves with the tools, applications, and all these things, the technological content knowledge. Let us not forget that the center of this really is learning, and learning in a digital space. So this is more than just tools. This is about how we help them navigate the digital space to maximize their learning. So I hope the presentation is very useful for everyone, and I hope you will work on some of the tasks, the prompts that I shared, and I hope we can see some presentations that will be submitted if they have time, of course, if they have time. So thank you very much, please.
Thank you, Dr. Rose, and I know you're very open to, keeping in touch still with them, and probably sharing notes, and they can consult you from time to time. Would that be okay?
Of course, we need to help each other. We are here to help one another. This is the time for us. That's why I'm so excited about one of our studies because it's on altruism. And in that study, I'll just share because I'm so excited with the responses of the student, and they said that even though they experience internet connection difficulties, difficulty of navigating the remote space, the digital space, they always find time to help. So I think we also have to embrace that as people as academics. How do we help each other navigate these spaces as academics? So if the students are doing that, maybe we can do more.
Yeah, and we can exchange notes, as you said, and that's part of beautiful research, right? Like what happened what happens in the classroom. Okay, thank you once again, Dr. Rose Atenco. From all the participants, they would like to really express their gratitude for such a wonderful session, despite the fact that we had a breaking of the signals because of the poor internet connection. Good afternoon, Dr. Rose. Okay,
Thank you very much.
all right. Allow me to, at some point, it's actually 3:01. I know it's a few minutes beyond our promised 3 o'clock closing, but there's this question which they would like to address to our teacher, Rich, our techie person. They would like to ask a little bit more. They want your tip now before they go online and before classes start. What would be the best audio system? Do you need a splitter? You know, do you have to invest on this, about the microphone? Would you respond to that, Rich?
I think if you are going to buy separate microphone and headphones, it's best to invest on a TRRS or TRS because this will convert your one plug, what do you call this? The one plug feature of your laptop or cell phone into splitting into two. That's for the microphone and also for the headphones, ma'am.
Rich, what's TSS?
TRRS, ma'am.
Sorry, what's that? What does that mean?
It's tip, ring, and tip, ring, and sleeve. So if you happen to notice your headphone jack is just two. For TRRS, it's three. It's for phones and laptops who has this one slot of headphone jack.
It's like a
And
splitter?
yes,
Like it's
po,
a U?
like a
All
splitter, but
right.
it splits the audio and the input, which is the microphone. So that's around
Okay.
50 pesos or 100 pesos for Lazada and Shopee. I think it's cheap
Mm.
for our teachers. Hindi siya ganun ka mahal.
Okay. In fact, I was consulting Richmond a couple of days ago because I wanted also to make sure I was able to buy the Boya lavalier or lapel mic, no, separately. But I was asking Richmond, I don't know how my signal's going, and then I'm just simply using an earphone. And he said, "Ma'am, if you have to be online for a long period of time, your ears would hurt if you're simply using your earpods. So maybe you should really use a headset." But I think it's so heavy also if you're using the headset, but whatever. Well, let's see what Richmond has to say. Richmond, regarding whether it's going to be a headset or an earphone.
Ma'am, if it's in earphone which isolates your air from outside, it might hurt your ear talaga. So if you are using a headset, siguro yung open, if you can hear the sounds from the outside, it's not noise
Mm.
cancellation. Noise canceling headphone if you are going to use that for a long period of time. Mas maganda po yung
Mm.
open yung yung
Kabila.
sound outside. Yes.
Okay. Anyway, we'll see. He will be back with us tomorrow. Okay. So he will share with us more tips on the techie and what you should invest on so that you will have a very smooth and meaningful recording of your PowerPoint or whatever you'd like to share. All right. At this point, I'm 4 minutes over time, and I hope you don't mind. Although there were others who said in the feedback, which I've read, please don't constrain us up to 3 o'clock if there's something that you would like to ask and gain from. So hopefully you will forgive me for extending for a few minutes. Again, we're flashing on the screen. I think there was some problem. Some of you had mistakenly added your name in all three or even more than three clusters. So we're cleaning up the registration, but otherwise, please enroll muna in one. Let's say your preference is life and works of Rizal. One muna. And if you find out that the room was already closed because it's already filled up by 20, that's when you try to go to the next rooms, okay? And then you will get a confirmation if you have been admitted. So tomorrow we will be announcing although by your email, if you get your email, you'll know which group you belong to. But otherwise, we'll also make the necessary announcements for tomorrow with regards to that. Now, since I mentioned the lives and works of Rizal, I would just like to recommend, you can go on YouTube and look for the video. It's a shorts which was premiered over Cinemalaya. The YouTube, the shorts is called General Rizal. It's the brother, Pasiano Rizal, not Pepe Rizal. But it's a powerful shorts. acted by Tata Nanding, and it is really based on research, no? What the brother thought about the fight for freedom during the Spanish period. Again, the title is General, H-E, General Rizal. It's for free. Do it. You would love watching it yourself. All right, for the announcements now. For the afternoon attendance, please check the link. This, you can find them posted now, as well as the evaluation form. And for tomorrow's event, this is the link, okay? You can take a picture. If you're using your laptop, you can use the, how do you call this, the snip and sketch. Sometimes that's how I catch the PowerPoint if I cannot take down all the notes. So please make sure you take note of all these necessary announcements. So again, thank you very much on behalf of the organizers, the Institute of Education, the EdTech, and Miss Dr. Mayet Rivera heading the whole project. You know, you don't see what's going on before or after the session, but I tell you, there's a lot of brainstorming, and because we want as much as possible to make this presentation engaging, informative, and you can learn a lot from it. So we may have some shortcomings, some technical problems, and some misgivings. We do apologize for that, but we hope we can have our last day tomorrow, a more exciting one. Experiential learning. We'll have it tomorrow. So again, thank you very much. This is Liz Abanto. Mag-ingat po kayo.